Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So today we're going to see the upper body veins. The first one that we're going to see is the transverse jugular. You see how it goes horizontally here towards the neck. Here we see the anterior facial and posterior facial. Of course, we have both left and right anterior facials on this side. Parallel to the trachea, we're going to find the external jugulars. This is my left external jugular, and then my right external jugular. Internally, we'll see the internal jugulars here. They run also parallel to the trachea. Very small caliber blood vessels. The right one was cut off. Here we see the brachiocephalic vein. It forms more or less like a neck here towards the trachea. Brachiocephalic. Here we see the superior vena cava. And here we see the remnants of the internal mammary that was severed once we opened the thoracic cavity. So once more, internal mammary, superior vena cava, brachiocephalic vein, external jugular, left external jugular, right external jugular, internal jugular, transverse jugular, anterior facial, and then the posterior facial. Here we see smaller caliber blood vessels. This is the vertebral, more specifically the left vertebral. And in the other side we see the right vertebral. Very small caliber. How in this location is arising from the brachiocephalic. In some occasions you may have an anatomical differentiation that the right vertebral may arise from the superior vena cava or drain into the superior vena cava. So once again, vertebral, brachiocephalic. Then here we see, this is going to be the axillary. The way that you know that this is the axillary is that you're going to draw an imaginary line where the armpit is going to be, and you're going to see that this is the axillary. Above it, it's going to be the subscapular vein. Subscapular vein. So again, all the way from the top, going towards the heart is going to be the superior vena cava, internal mammary, brachiocephalic vein, vertebral vein, axillary, above it is the subscapular, and here we see the external jugular. Internal jugular, this is small caliber vein, transverse jugular, anterior facial, and posterior facial. Now, using as a point of reference the heart, behind the heart we're going to find the azygous vein. Azygous vein, behind the heart. We continue the journey and we'll see the inferior vena cava after it passes the thoracic cavity. We'll see it here in the abdominal region. This long vein is the inferior vena cava. Then we'll see branches that drain into the inferior vena cava. Here we see the adrenolumbar vein, and our point of reference is the adrenal gland. This one, as you know, this is going towards the kidney, so we call it the renal vein. The left renal vein. Now here we see an anatomical differentiation. The left gonadal vein drains into the renal vein. So this is the gonadal veins. If it's a male, we call it the spermatic vein. If it's a female, we call it the ovarian vein. Now we continue the journey, following the blood vessels into the lower back of the kidney. This is the iliolumbar, left and right. You see how it has a satellite. The artery has a satellite vein, iliolumbar, right and then left. It comes to a point where the inferior vena cava bifurcates and it turns into what we call is the common iliac. This common iliac branches out in what we call is the left external iliac and then the right external iliac. It also gives me the internal iliacs. They're a very small caliber of blood vessels, so they're hard to see in this specimen. We follow the external iliacs. Once they pass the inguinal canal, as well, we're going to draw an imaginary line where the groin is, the inguinal canal. It turns into the femoral. The femoral gives me a small branch before it continues into the thigh that is called the deep femoral vein. Here we see the femoral. That femoral gives me a branch that is going to go above the knee that is called the superior articular vein, and one that goes behind the knee that is called the popliteal vein. This is the popliteal vein, behind the knee. Furthermore, that femoral goes into the inner thigh and is called the saphenous vein. You see how it goes all the way in the inner thigh. Saphenous vein, the great saphenous vein. So let's do a review again from the top. This is the inferior vena cava. This small blood vessel here is the adrenolumbar vein. Your point of reference for this one is going to be the kidney, so this is the renal vein. Arising from the left renal, we're going to see the iliolumbar, the gonadal vein. That if it's a male, we call it spermatic. If it's a female, we call it the ovarian. We continue the journey. We follow the iliolumbar vein, the left and the right. When it bifurcates, the inferior vena cava comes into the common iliac. The common iliac gives me the external iliac. Left external iliac, right external iliac. And then the internal that they are not displayed in this specimen. Once we pass the inguinal canal, the external iliac becomes the deep femoral, continues its journey into the thigh, the femoral. Above the knee is called the superior articular. Behind the knee is called popliteal. When it goes all the way to the inner thigh, then it's called the saphenous vein.